have from player to creator, how we broke into game development. And I will call up the moderator, Mr. Rick Williams, Daniel Bean, panelists, Joshua Blow, and then Mr. Michael Curran. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, wait. Mr. Ryan Griffin, sorry about that.
Ryan!
Hello everybody, how are you doing today? So who here likes playing games? Excellent. Good. So we are all developers who at one point really enjoyed playing games enough to the point that we said, man, if I made it, I would do it this way. So we have here a group of very accomplished developers, and I would like to have them all introduce themselves. First of all, I'm Rick Williams, I'm the chair of the Baltimore IGDA, and I'm an indie developer, I do contracts for people, and I teach boot camps. And I'd like to start off by introducing Ryan Griffin.
Hello, thanks Rick, and again, my name is Ryan Griffin. I was actually the Baltimore IGDA chapter last year, so I am very familiar with Rick as well as a childhood friend as well. My name is Ryan, so I actually specialize in doing 3D art. I have worked on Aura History Untold, which is with Microsoft. It's like a civilization strategy game. Who here likes Star Wars? Anyone like Star Wars? Yeah, okay. So there's a new game out called Star Wars Zero Company. It is set in the Clone Wars. And I helped to actually make that. If you look up on YouTube, that is going to be the new Star Wars and XCOM collaboration. So it's a new studio that's in Baltimore, and they're doing a lot of great things. I've been doing 3D since I was 15, and I have a passion for it. I've been doing many different things with 3D. I can do vehicles, environments, characters. I also used to teach this as well, so I'm very passionate about it. But I'm going to give the mic to the next person here. So we got 3 more to go. All right, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dan. I have done a little bit of everything over the course of my career. I started doing player support back in the dial-up modem days, so that makes me an old for most of you here. Working for a company called Kesmai Remote, so this is back in the, well, last millennia. It was like $3.95 an hour to log on to CompuServe or AOL, and then another $3.95 an hour if you wanted to play these games. They were so far ahead of their time making these multiplayer online games way back in 1992, 3, 4. I ended up going to work at Westwood Studios thinking, oh, I'll continue doing player support for like 2 or 3 years and then move over studio side. It was 20 years later before I took a studio side position at ZOS as the lead art producer for The Elder Scrolls Online. It has been quite a journey. Now I am head of an indie studio, Grimogen Games. We are working on our first title based on the H.G. Wells Time Machine IP. It is not a retelling of that story, but it is set in that universe. All right, next.
Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Joshua Blow. I'm a software engineer and game designer and who also specializes in art and animation. Currently, I am running my own studio, Sinistral Art, who is currently working on a cyberpunk shooter fighter, Rebellion Striker. I've been doing game development for 15 years professionally. Right now, this would be my first own IP, so I've worked on everybody else's game. Now I'm working on my title. And I'm also an educator as well, so I've been doing, and I still do it, I've been educating people on programming, game development, and design for George Mason, Southern College of Maryland, and other other, what do you call it, after school curriculums. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on.
Okay, I'm Michael Kern. I'm an audio designer and composer. Been in the game industry since 2003 when I started working on civilization games at Firaxis, right just north of Baltimore. And worked there for about 12 years. Did a bunch of Civ games, and version of Pirates, and a bunch of other stuff. But then went to Stardock Games in Michigan, but they had opened an office in Timonium, and so I was a sound designer and composer for Stardock for a few years before Oxide was hiring up for Aura History Untold that Ryan just talked about. And so I was audio director at Oxide and lead composer and sound designer on Aura. And so that's the last big thing I did. I got laid off last year, end of January 25. So I'm out of work. I did have some contract work for about 8 months during that period, but that just ended, so I'm looking again. And last thing I just mentioned is last year, because I had a lot of time being unemployed, I started a group called the Mid-Atlantic Game Composers. And we're putting on a concert, excuse my piece. Putting on a concert in the fall, hopefully in Baltimore. We're looking to get funding, but it's going to be at Andy Music downtown. And it's going to be 4 different composers presenting their music in a small ensemble, 16-player format. So a little different than the usual game symphony orchestra concerts. This is a little more intimate and more about community between the composers and the musicians, many of which we recorded for Aura and used a lot of local talent here. But anyway, we're looking forward to that concert in the fall, and I'm looking forward to finding work. Thanks.
So as you guys can see, we have very talented developers here. I know sometimes it's hard not to be a little starstruck, like with Mike here. I know that Civ 5, the soundtrack on that, I had that burned to a CD, and man, I would just listen to it for fun, just because it was amazing. So how many of you think it might be cool to be a game developer at some point? Yeah. So what we are here to talk about today is what it is like to be a developer, and what the day looks like, to give you some insights as to what you would look forward to if you got into game dev. So I'd like to start with Ryan. Talk about a little bit about your workflow and what it's like to be a developer as a 3D artist.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. So with 3D art, I actually kind of got started with that back in like high school. So think of me like I'm playing like sports. I'm doing like academic stuff. I was playing a bunch of games, right? And it's like how can I do this art thing and make games, right? And so I figured out like, oh, what actually goes into the art of making games? And so I found out, hey, like I like went on to like YouTube and like making of my favorite game, right? And it's like, oh, there's things where like you can do like character stuff. There was actually a panelist here for Bobby. Bobby, he does a lot of like sculpting characters in 3D, and I focus on doing environment arts or vehicles, right? So for me, like I basically was a architect, but for video games, and I didn't have to abide by code. So with that, I just really like to make things, and I had a very photographic memory, so like I could imagine something in 3D, I could turn it around, right? So for like a chair or a basketball or what have you, right? I would basically go and say, hey, how can I sketch this, right? And I basically took that skill and then focused that into the software side of it. So a 3D artist is both someone who is very artistic and very technical, right? So they have to learn the software to be able to model something. And then they have to go through a process where they have to make the 3D assets and then texture it, right? Because when you make a 3D model, it doesn't have like any like color or texturing to it. And so I have to go and UV unwrap it and then apply a texture to it and then get that into a game engine. And so depending upon what I'm trying to do, whether that's open world game, or I'm making a racing game, or a wrestling game, right? Like I have to go and figure out how I'm going to break apart the different kinds of environments. So I was very good at making modeling with assets like that. And I can go into a lot of the software and technical side of it, but that's like a broad overview. And the other thing is that I'm collaborating with other people on my team, because it's quite difficult for one person to make an entire game by themselves, right? So I need to be able to help other people and collaborate and talk with them. So it's a team effort.
So, oh. Wow, sorry. I've done a whole bunch of stuff, but I think I want to focus on a role that I spent about 2.5 years in, which was Global Project Readiness Manager for player support. And the reason I want to focus on that is because it gave me an opportunity to work with a bunch of the ZeniMax studios, so Bethesda Game Studios, Arcane Leon, id, and locally Sparky Pants here in Baltimore. They did the Elder Scrolls Legends, which was, I think, technically published by ZOS through Bethesda Softworks, but most of the dev work was done over at Sparky Pants. That gave me an opportunity to not only work with a bunch of development teams, but also to work with a bunch of publishing groups and to kind of see how the business side of things work, because I was on the business management team for that title. So, what I really want to talk about today is if you want to work in games, but you don't think you can be an artist or do programming or whatever else, people don't really even know what goes into games, I'm here to tell you, no matter what you want to do, they need you in the gaming industry to do that thing. From lawyers to salespeople to accountants, like all of that. Doesn't matter if you, don't think you have what it takes to make games directly, you can still work in this industry. I also want to talk a little bit about my time as a producer at ZeniMax Online Studios, because I think there's a lot of confusion about what producers do. I see a lot of people with spreadsheets and putting stuff in Jira, and yes, that's part of it, but it's the least of the role. A producer is essentially a leader, because we have to get teams of people to work together, as Ryan talked about. But none of those people report to us, so we're not writing their annual reviews. We can't just say, do it, or you're not getting a raise next year. Like, we've got to motivate the team by making sure that the pathway is clear and they don't have any blockers and that they're getting all of the support and the tools that they need, and that's where a producer really adds value. So even if you don't think you can do any of those other things, build your people skills, and you will be able to get people to do really wildly incredible things. I think probably one of the biggest aha moments I had was I got feedback from one of my art teams who said, I essentially said, hey, you guys are incredible, you exceeded my expectations, and one of the people on the team said, no, you're incredible, we ended up exceeding our own expectations. And I was like, oh good, I added value, cool.
Force multiplies.
Yes. Anyway, so that's all I got. Josh?
Yeah. So the day. Hello. So the day in life of a developer. So I specialize in doing software engineering for video games, gameplay mechanics. Oh. Okay. Oh, okay.
I turned mine off. I think mine's off.
Hello. Test.
Yeah, if it works.
Hello.
There you go.
That works better. So yeah. Starting day in life of a software developer, it starts in the Trello board. But that's a big thing. So you just like, one thing about game development, you're just gonna have like a huge big list of checklists.
Why are you gonna, like, shots fired?
Yeah, it's like there's a huge list. But overall, software development that consists of learning computer science, different programming languages like C#, Python, and I say with video games that's the fun way to learn it, because it's nothing like, if any of you guys, I know schools now, they have like program curriculums here and there now, and I even teach some of them. So instead of like hello world, making an explosion with your code is more exciting. And that resonated with me. And actually, I started off as an artist. Kind of similar, like what Ryan saying, and talking about, you do art, people are like, oh, you're gonna be an architect. And then I just like tripped up and fell into games. And starting in art, I always wanted to make my games, like when I discovered that I can make games, and I'm like, okay, the pathway, apparently you can need this thing called code to make games to work, and which is the instructions you're basically sending to the computer. And over time, I just learned how to do it, and then I even went to school, which amplified that, like constant practice over time. Lots of practice. Yeah, lots of practice. Like if you want to make a game, just make it. Like your game's not going to, like LeBron James didn't start off with LeBron James, so your game's not going to come out looking like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Minecraft. So one of the things you can do is actually go on YouTube and find a course and just follow it through. Don't question, just follow it through. Then you have something at the end and you can play with it and learn from it. And that process right there is one of the main days of a software engineer, like at work, developing games, because you're pulling it up, you're trying to solve a problem. You may look something up, you may talk to other people, but you are creating features for said game. You're talking to game designers, you're talking to 3D artists. And the whole game development process is a whole team process. So if you do play sports and understand teamwork, that teamwork part is going to be very helpful for you, the team building system. So, and then another thing to being said, another day in the game developer, there's always going to be something happening. It's not going to be stagnant. There's always, for good and bad. I mean, honestly, bugs are funny. So, I mean, it's like, they frustrating, but they also always funny. I think bugs are funnier in video games, rather than I program a kind of like software, without fancy cool characters like Sonic and Mario, I guess like, spreadsheet stuff, applications. But video games, bugs are more fun there. But and I would say bugs are even more trickier when you're developing video games. So if you know how to solve problems developing video games, it carries a long way. But yeah, bugs are always fun to find.
I wanna jump in real quick and just echo something that Josh said. The first time you make anything, it's not gonna be good. Like, unless you're that rare exception, it's gonna be bad. And you're not gonna be happy with it, because the reason you want to do what you want to do is you've got excellent taste in whatever that is. And there's a whole Ira Glass quote about this. So you tend to really dislike your own work for a long time. That's how the process works. It's okay. That's how you get better. One of my favorite quotes from Will Rogers, who was a Native American born in Oklahoma, is good judgment comes from experience. As it turns out, experience comes from bad judgment. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have a lot of experience. So make your mistakes, because you are never ever going to be ready to do something you've never done before. So just start.
And you know, when you making mistakes in video games, it's no high stakes. It's just a video game. That's the best part.
And sometimes you get one of those really funny bugs out of it.
Bug, it's a feature. If it's funny enough, yes.
I used to be a game developer like you until I took an arrow to the knee.
Mike?
So, day in the life, is that what this question is?
Yeah. Day in the life, what's it like to do what you do?
Well, all right, so that's evolved over the years. When I started in game audio, it pretty much, you made the sounds and you handed them off. And so I never touched the game, for probably the first few years that I was in game dev. And that was working on Civ games. And it's evolved, and I guess I'll talk mostly about Aura since that's most fresh in my mind. We just finished it, and really the most interesting days of my life. No, I mean, honest to God, it was. So we started on Aura, and I worked on that for about 6-7 years. I wrote a design document for the audio, the whole audio. Music, sound effects, ambience, all of it, and just how it all would work together. And so when I came onto the team about 6 months after writing that document, it was kind of all mapped out, but day in the life was constantly changing, from, days and days spent just writing music, or creating sound effects design for the other sound designers, which, I would kind of start with, some things that I wanted it to sound like, and then turn it over to sound effects designers and the different people on our team. But, the soundtrack was really what took most of my time, other than managing these other people on the audio team. We recorded a lot of music. We wrote a lot of music. There's 118 cues in that game, in Aura. Over 7 hours of music. All of it is interactive, so it's really, if you consider how it works interactively in the game, it's just multiply that by a lot. My day would be just, spending some time writing and then working with the other sound effects designers, and there was a lot of travel involved, really cool travel. Got to go to Prague 3 or 4 times to record with their orchestra there, about 20 days of recording. We also went to Mongolia to record a mooring curve ensemble, 18-piece string, like Asian kind of sounding ensemble, and recorded a bunch of soloists at our studio in Timonium. And so many days they would just be coming in every day, different players, and recording all the parts. I'm just sort of randomly naming things to do. But it was a really interesting project, and it took a long time, and it's something I'm really proud of, in spite of the fact that the whole soundtrack has not been released yet. There's a preview, 50 minutes of it, 50 out of 7+ hours. But that's on all the streaming platforms. So check it out. And speaking of unreleased games, I'm trying to get them to release the thing. It's really maddening. And just to put that in perspective, and just how audio is sort of viewed in the game industry somewhat, Civ 5, which Rick mentioned, another soundtrack I'm really proud of, was only released this year. 15 years or so after the fact, more than 15, I don't know, a lot of years.
I don't know how I got it burned.
And I don't know how it finally got released, but it did. So now that's on all the streaming platforms, Civ 5 and the expansion. Yeah.
So the takeaway here is if you're a contractor or an employee, make sure there's a clause in your contract that says, once the game ships, I can use any of my work in my personal portfolio. Because then you can release your soundtrack if you need to. Not everybody's going to be okay with that, but a lot of the times it's not a matter of the studios don't want to release it. It's that there's a whole bunch of licensing stuff that has to happen in the background for that to happen, and it just keeps slipping down the priority list.
It's about a half a day's work, tops,
Right.
to get it out there.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that, but you've
But they have
got
no motive.
6 years worth of half a days of work in line, and it gets shifted around. So, you know, and it's never going to be as important to anybody at Oxide as it is to Michael. You can bet your, oh, there's a child-friendly audience, right? You can bet your patootie that Michael would have had that out like before the end of ship day when that game released.
Excellent, thank you guys. So, as you can see, there's a lot of different roles that you can play. We've got artists, producers, programmers, musicians. Roles that we don't have represented up here are narrative, designers, you've got QA, marketers, lots of different roles that contribute to making a game. One of the things that was touched on that is hugely important is game development is a team sport. It's easy to imagine that you're just some super genius that sits in a room at your computer and you just make a game and it's awesome. But the best part about making games is the collaborative process, working with people who are talented and specialists at what they do and bringing everything together into a cumulative, collaborative, creative experience. So I would say if you're interested, there is no one right path to getting into games. There is no one thing that you have to be able to do. You can find your strength and do it. So we have about 20 minutes left. So I would ask you guys to give a brief recommendation. If somebody wanted to get started today in this economy, the way that things are set up, the way the industry is now, how would you recommend that they get started? And then after that, we'll take a few questions from the audience.
I'll start before I forget what I was
Okay.
going to say. Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is just meeting people. You know, going to events like this. Don't be afraid to go up to devs and talk to them and ask them. You know, I got my job at Firaxis because I went to high school with the other sound designer, and he knew that I could do the job. But I mean, that's how I got in. I have never had an interview in a game studio. People have known me, and I get brought onto the teams. So it's really, you know, I know it sounds like, oh, you know, that's so hard because I don't know anybody, you know, but you don't know who's going to be that one that gives you an opportunity. So any chance you get, you know, if you're really interested in getting into games, you know, go to events like these, especially if they're local to you. There's no reason not to be. A lot of them cost money. Like if you go to GDC, it's a lot of money. It's a big investment. Plus, it's a little bit overwhelming, you know, trying to meet people. Anyway, that's it.
Game devs are very friendly people. We're all nerds with social issues, so we're friendly and welcoming.
Ain't that the truth? But starting off, nowadays it's actually a lot easier. So you know, the self starter, we know the answer is probably YouTube, some lessons on YouTube. But actually, some really good starters is yes, going to events, networking, talk to people, make some friends. We actually host events like these all the time throughout the year. I recently just held our own event in the DC area, Cherry Blossom Arcade. And then also classes and courses. There's courses for young adults and all ages. for learning programming and game development and game design. And myself, I teach those classes. I'm actually starting my own classes for teaching game development next month. And so, yeah, so just go out there, ask us questions where to start. Actually, that's the first thing you should do. Ask us, where should you start or how do you start? And really, yeah, we're gonna have answers for that.
So, one of the really nice things about modern video game development is anybody in this room can go download Unreal Engine or Godot. I'm kidding, it's pronounced Godot, but it's spelled Godot, or Game Maker, or Unity. Back when I started, like, if you wanted to work on a game, you needed to be at a studio because everybody was using their own bespoke game engine. And you couldn't just go grab one and start building. Now you can. So download whichever one you want to do a little research, figure out which one's going to suit the game you want to build, or just grab one and go. That's the biggest advantage I think people today have. But the other thing is, like everybody else has said, go to events. I went to GDC this year for the first time, despite having been in the industry for, gosh, pushing 30 years now. And it was, like, I didn't think I knew people. Like, I knew some people, been in the industry for a very long time. Every time I turned around at GDC, it felt like somebody was going, Dan, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you. I think I ran into a friend of mine, Gordon Walden, that I literally hadn't seen in person in 20 years. But if you just walk up to any game developer at one of the conferences, like, eavesdrop. I know that sounds a little shady, but as you're walking through, like, these hallways filled with people, like, just listen to the discussions going on around you and politely butt in. Hey, I heard you were talking about blah, blah, blah. It's one of my favorite games. I really enjoyed that. Do you mind if I just sit and listen? And believe me, the answer is going to be, yeah, absolutely. Who are you? What's your name? And I know because I was the guy that was like, oh, you just got out of school? Like, let's talk about... I was also the guy, somebody shook my hand and I was like, that's not how you shake hands. And I gave a short course on why it's important to make eye contact and have a firm grip, but not too firm, and at least 3 pumps. Anyway, so what was that you said about socially awkward nerd? Hi, my name's Dan. I'm going to hand it over to Ryan.
Thanks, Dan. So yeah, like, a couple different things. Passion. A lot of you probably have it, right? It's taking that raw talent, applying some skills, and experimenting, right? A lot of people, they think, hey, like, one thing that, like, my family does is we play a lot of board games, play card games, right? What if you were to design your own board game, right? What if you made some custom rules, right? Oh, it's gonna be like this own thing, right? That's how you can get started with any kind of game development. Start with, like, pen and paper and just draw out your idea and figure out, hey, like I'm gonna cut out these cards and it's gonna have rules and I'm gonna make up my own version of it and then play test it, right? That's for, like, really getting started, like, bare bones, like no tools, right? For me as a 3D artist, right, I'm starting out with, like, hey, I'm gonna go and, like, I'm really getting into, like, character stuff, right? So I wanna draw and design my own character, right? You can do that, or you could be like, I wanna draw, or I wanna do Mario, I wanna do Zelda, whatever, right? You can do that aspect of it, of, like, making your own character, but that's like a 2D thing, right? I needed this to get into a game engine, right? So how do I do that? Oh, I need to be able to go and think, I'm gonna make a platformer, right? So, like Mario, I'm gonna go and do that, right? I need to go through different parts of animation, and I need to do that like swing attack, right? You can do that. For, like, a 3D artist, start out with Blender. being able to go onto YouTube and there is millions of tutorials on how to do Blender. There's so many more resources compared to when I was a kid, because I actually had to go and find and buy DVDs that had tutorials on it, right? You can go onto YouTube and find anything. It's crazy. But yeah, being able to find a mentor, being able to join a community, right? Finding a mentor, I have always had people who saw the potential in me and was like, hey, I see where you want to go. I want you to try these things and continue to come back and put your energy into learning and practicing. Then come back to your mentor and be like, hey, I've done this thing. What do you think? Right? And show that you've grown each time, right? And eventually you'll go along your path. So, thank you.
Let me hang on. Let's talk about mentors for a second, because this is one of the most widely misunderstood, abused terms anywhere for all of humanity. Okay, maybe I'm overselling it a little bit, not by much. So when I first started coaching and mentoring folks, I was seeking out people, and occasionally you get really super lucky and find a Ryan who does have a lot of potential but is also willing to chase it. Most of the time, you identify people with potential that just aren't ready yet. And after 3 incredibly frustrating experiences, I had the realization that the reason the Chinese say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, is because you can't force somebody to be a student. So if you want a mentor, here's my advice. Find somebody you like, that you respect, that seems to know a lot about the thing you want to do, and just start talking to them. Don't come up to them and say, hello, I am looking for a mentor. Would you please be my mentor? Because that happens a lot. And anytime somebody says that to me, I say yes, because I know I'm never going to hear from them again. But if you just start talking to them, and like if you're in a physical office environment, like stop by their office once or twice, ask questions, just start having conversations. Hey, can we go to lunch? Can I talk to you about, what the right next art course for me to take is? What programming language should I be looking at learning next? What should I be looking at for game design resources? And as you start to have those discussions, keep reaching out, scheduling the time, and what will emerge is a very functional mentor-mentee. I don't like the term mentee, but I like mentities, so mentities. By the way, yes, I am that guy in any office environment. But that's how you develop a mentor relationship that's actually going to move you forward, because it's not about the formalization of that relationship, it's about actually getting to know the person. Because here's the thing, I learn as much or more from the people I mentor than they learn from me. So it keeps me plugged into what's going on now, and how, and I've got people from 18 to 40 that I mentor. I'm learning about how each generation is thinking about and engaging with games and stories and what's going on, just generally speaking. So you're going to find the best mentors, they're going to make time for you because they know the value even more than you think you know the value of having that relationship. Okay, that's all I got. I did want to share, you can design any character. This is mine. And that is why I didn't go into art.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, so the big takeaways here is you want to get started in any way possible. Whatever you're interested in, there's a free open source version of the software, pick it up and go. There's a ton of content on YouTube. You can go and learn for free, get started, just pick up insights. And with networking, jobs come to people that, if you know somebody who knows about a job, they let you know about the job before it goes up online. But opportunities in your networking also don't look like just getting a job. They can look like somebody who is like, hey, I just learned about this cool new tool, and then they introduce you to something that is your break-in thing. Like you found your thing because they told you about it. It's people who can answer a question for something you're stuck on. It's people who give you an opportunity to do a game jam, and then that game jam becomes your bomb portfolio piece that really solidifies you as somebody who can be taken seriously. So opportunities, you make the opportunities, and other people around you who are into it keep you challenged and inspired and on track with your progress. So we have a few more minutes. I'd like to take some questions from the audience.
Anyone have questions? All right. Y'all gonna make me work out today.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for your time. Where are all the ladies at? I don't see. Okay.
Can we get
I
our
just
Game Dev
was
ladies
curious
to raise their
because
hands?
I love hearing from my gentlemans, but I was just looking for some ladies that.
We got a couple of talented ladies from our game dev community in the audience right over there. They are.
Any other questions? Put your hands up, please. Gotcha.
Excuse me, ma'am. Like, let's talk afterwards. Once I know what you want to do, like, I have some people I can connect you with.
So this question is, as a parent, when we here for my kids, what equipment do you recommend we get for like someone who's interested in doing voiceovers, like for beginners? What should we do?
All right, so equipment that you want to look you want to look up ideal voice acting equipment, and then you can add like whatever price range you'll generally ask, but definitely you will have to buy a studio type mic. And then there's also, things you have to like sound, I forgot what they call it, sound, they're like the foam things. And so you're gonna need those to help with sound, like controlling the.
So, a lot of voice actors from my generation started with, I kid you not, cassette tapes and boom boxes. And you want to talk about some crap mics. But we did whole comedy sketches. It was a good time. So, like, you can start with whatever, but I think it's a compression mic. Is it? Yeah, but like, you can start with like a Yeti Blue Nano, which is relatively affordable. Get some of the cheap phone panels. Compression mic, like it's just a professional grade microphone. You can get the cheap foam sound absorbing panels, but the important thing is to just eliminate the echoes, and there's a ton of great information online. I know because like I've got the panels in the corners of my office and like around the ceiling fan, and because they will tell you exactly where to put my dumbass was going to actually like do all of the walls in the room until I went and looked, and they were like, don't do that. Do not do that. You don't need to do that, and it will sound awful. And I was like, oh. So like there's a lot of great information, but the thing is to just start and practice recording lines and doing voices and stretching and learning. And again, like there are going to be a lot of resources online for that, but also like we'll trade contact information. I got a couple of voice actors that probably would be happy to talk to somebody that wants to start doing it, because that's a pretty small community of people, and none of them knew how to break into it when they started either. So,
and before you get any equipment, you can get started right away with your cell phone mic and a free download of Audacity.
yes.
All right, so we have the last question, but you're able to talk to them after the panel as well. They'll be here for a little bit extra. After we're done, just stay up there, we'll take a picture, and then move to the side so we can have some conversation with people. All right, last question.
My son is also into audio voiceover narration. He's kind of started, he actually gave me access to his VRC group. So I got to hear a little bit of what he does. And I'm trying to find out, because I've been doing searches, doing online, But are there any type of internships, or because my son's about to be 15 in July, but if there are any type of internships, activities that he can really get into to do the networking and do the meeting? So that's the main thing for me, is just really finding out that actual access, because we've done a couple of things. This so far has really been the most effective and informative. So just trying to find things like that.
I don't have a good answer to that, but again, let's trade contact information. I will reach out to a couple of my voice actor friends and be like, hey, where do I point people? Because I'm a little bit, I don't know, embarrassed that I don't have these resources, because holy crap, I should. Like, I know a half dozen people that could just point me. The other thing I would say is have some fun on, I have lots of feelings and thoughts about social media. Don't spend a lot of time scrolling it, but put yourself out there. Like, make some TikToks, don't read the comments, make some TikToks, make some reels, but do it as a creator. Like, put your work out there. Don't spend a lot of time scrolling other people's work, because that will give you the opportunity to try new things, and it gives you the excuse to come up with creative new ideas rather than just trying to do it for yourself. But again, like, haters gonna hate, the comments are gonna be whatever they are. Sometimes they're gonna be great, sometimes they're gonna be bad. Ask me how I know. I perform as a merman, including Deadpool merman, and man, some of the comments, wonderful. Some of the comments, those people can just go find a pier to jump off of. And that's okay. But have some fun with it.
Michael had an answer.
Thank you. Hi. Well, I've recorded a lot of VO and also worked with some studios that basically they do everything. They cast, they record it, and deliver files for you. But I would say probably the most important thing you can do would be to work on creating a reel. And I know that when I was auditioning people through their reels, that's what you do. You just get a ton of reels to go through and listen to them. And the thing I found most lacking in most people's reels were a variety of different types of characters. They were probably 90% kind of real character voices, like cartoon kind of voices, you know? And that's great if that's what you're looking for. But if you just wanted someone acting with a regular, not sort of affected voice, those are really hard to find when you're going through reels. So I would say put as much variety in your reel as possible. I would just scroll through them looking for what do they actually sound like. And it was almost impossible to find. So probably your reel is as important as any equipment you might buy starting out. It doesn't matter really so much about the quality of the equipment. If you're just starting out, you just want to record yourself. And if people like what you're doing with your voice, then worry about getting the good equipment, you know?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
You said something interesting there when you said trying to find out what they actually sound like. Are you saying that on the reel, people should also include just their natural voice?
Acting in their natural voice, or a voice that does not sound like a cartoon character. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
A lot of game VO is very cartoonish in terms of the kind of voices that are used. And that's great. But that's not the only thing that you do with voice.
Yes, there are a lot of characters that are just, well, I mean, Isso's a great example. Like, John Cleese voiced our weird oddball character.
Sure.
But you can tell that's John Cleese.
Right.
You know?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. So we are at our time. Thank you so much for the answers. Thank you to the audience for coming and listening to us.
All right, just to really add on to, Real Digitize, we do real creative boot camps. So we do teach the basics of foundations of content creation. We're gonna do some voice-over acting type stuff as well. So make sure you scan the QR codes on the table and stay in touch with us. Also over there, we'll be mailing it. We work heavily with Baltimore City Recs and Parks. So we put this together. We'll be doing more stuff in the fall next year as well.
And for all of you, thank you. Please feel free to come up and speak to our panelists, and also play test our indie games that we've got on display in the back. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great job, great job.
My game will be in the back. Rebellion Striker is a 2 to 6 player cyberpunk shooter fighter. So come up there and fight. And I'm also seeing a lot of Sonic stuff, some Sonic stuff in here. I used to work on a Sonic game, so that's always